Welcome to the virtual presentation of Atmospheres of Belonging, the aesthetic qualities of the Japanese installation wasted on fertility, and American videoblogs or vlogs about in vitro fertilization on YouTube. In a biotech century where continuous developments in the realms of reproduction technology fuel a perception of the human life as molecular and the body as fragmentary, the pursuit of fertility in Japan and Euro-America is essentially understood as individualistic and rational pursuits of relatedness. The individualized and differentiated fertility treatments reflect a movement from optimization of the infertile body as normalization project to a hedonistic spun customization, proliferating an array of new bioethical concerns and citizenship issues of belonging that arises due to transnational movements and commodification of the fragmentary bodies involved by assisted reproduction. Hence, the body is demystified, open for targeted manipulation in order to meet our needs, wants, and passions. The optimization and fragmentation of the body in order to fulfill our immediate expectation in this regard shows that nature, the natural fertile body, no longer serves as a sacred objectivity we can refer to. However, as noted by the sociologist Nicholas Rose, engagement with the new molecular enhancement technologies does not mean that we have become less biological, but more. The valuation of the biological body related to assisted reproduction is mainly discussed as commodification of a body of great bioeconomic value, while the semantic wildness due to the fragmentation is argued to enable negotiation, establishment and transformation of kinship, culturally, socially and politically, which extends the notion on the function of online communities on fertility and infertility. Existing research and narratives on IVF experience, as argued by Kato and Sleepum-Faulkner, suggests that reproductive technologies in Japan advances without taking the feeling and ontological valuation of the reproductively challenged into consideration. A similar notion is made in research on Dutch and Greek IVF online forums by Karl-Jansen Nielen-Falquist and Rosa, which centers on, quote, the emotional concerns expressed in IVF forums should be taken into account by healthcare ethics committees for IVF-related matters, in order to promote more patient-oriented care and support for women going through IVF, unquote. Although Japan and Euro-American societies seem to converge in their perception of fertility projects as increasingly rational and idiosyncratic, these issues are more or less discussed in terms of commodification of the fragmentary bodies involved by assisted reproduction. The psychic and physical energy invested in the pursuit of relatedness is in Euro-American context followed as egocentrism, as unfamiliar fertility projects where the body is of great bioeconomic value. As Kato and Sleepum-Faulkner notes, Japan follows Western state guidelines, which influence on discussions of issues of belonging generated by new reproduction technology in reference to a Western interpretation. What Kato and Sleepum-Faulkner propose is how individuals' ontological valuation of embryos are neglected, defining their attitude to the fragments of their body involved by assisted reproduction. However present this perspective is in Wasted and the vlog of Sylvia and Peter, I want to propose that what is also at stake in the two performances discussed. This article is an orchestration of belonging on a general level, appeals through ontological and emotional relatedness in a biotech century with no sacred objectivity to refer to. What they address is in terms of the German sociologist Gerhard Schulze an experience orientation, conveying the polyrhythmic aspects of contemporary life. How individuals oscillate between involving and detaching elements, responding to the paradoxical ways life is understood as both unique and modifiable. In the following, I will discuss two quite different works that centers on infertility and fertility, where atmospheres of belonging are orchestrated, through which an active and critical engagement in the emotional and ontological significance of the body is enabled. The first work discussed is the installation Wasted by Japanese Rosetta artist Tomoki Mukayami from 2009. The other is a video blog or vlog produced, populated and distributed by Sylvia and Peter. Of course, they are anonymized. An American couple expressing their experience with in vitro fertilization, also called IVF. Sylvia and Peter's vlogs seemingly reflect a distinctly self-referential experience project, but presuppose a shared bodily being in relation, enabled through the aesthetic affective dimension of the vlog's close-up of emotional distress and physical pain before, during and after the IVF treatment. While the same presupposition is at stake in Mukayami's installation, it is enabled not through intimate close-ups. Through the abstract cathedral-like space out of thousands of white dresses, infertility and fertility is represented in an unrecognizable form, with no place despite the gigantic and excessive space for individual and personal experiences of narrations of infertility and fertility. But it's exactly the abstraction that allows for a breakaway from existing perception of infertility. The affective disorientation allows for individual experience to elicit. In both the vlog and Wasted, atmospheres of belonging orchestrated that address and reflect the dialectics of involvement and detachment, detaching elements of experiences with infertility and fertility, responding to the paradoxical ways life is understood in the biotech century. In order to understand how a shared notion of being in relation is presupposed and challenged in a biotech century, the orchestration of atmospheres in the following will offer insight into how the vlog and Wasted express an intersubjective orientation in an era where the body is constantly individualized and differentiated. At stake is how connectivity or belonging is facilitated by the spares of signs and gestures, which includes ugly feelings, offering a different perspectives on the world and the projects mediated. On atmospheres. Atmosphere is an expansion of the classical concept of aesthetics and offers insight into how the everyday production of atmospheres and the qualities of products condition the way we perceive ourselves, others, and the world, as the German philosopher Gerhard Böhme has put it. It is an aesthetics that is concerned with the description of the dialectical connection between the qualities of our surroundings and our emotional state as a general condition for evaluation of what we experience. In order to address aspects of aestheticization of everyday life, we must, according to Böhme, focus on the production of atmospheres and their affective experience quality. Thus, atmosphere refers to what is aesthetically relevant, that what is sensed. The aesthetic contains our norms and values in a concrete sensory form. Atmospheres, Böhme argues, implicitly contains a perception of something. It is orchestrated in order to cause a specific reaction, although it remains difficult to trace a specific object of activity. This lack of transparency has led to a discrediting of the experience of aestheticization as hedonistic, superficial, and prettification, as seduction, which by definition has been viewed as manipulative. However, seduction and orchestration of atmospheres are key elements of perception. Through fascination, we invest our attention, and the quality of this experience is valued. Through the aesthetic value attached to the orchestration of our surroundings and experiences, we invest us. The aesthetic object fascinates us in ways that evoke fascination, influencing on how we organize our lives. Atmosphere thus are characterized by dynamics of power between individuals' need for being present in surroundings that makes them feel at ease, and through this presence to affect the surroundings or set the atmosphere. Individuals are actively involved in the orchestration of experience quality. The concept of atmosphere in this regard opens for a sensibility towards the conditions we live under, hereunder, but not limited to the manipulation and power of these elements. Swedish media theorist André Jensen explores the intersection of cultural products, communities, and practices, and particularly how people interpret and evaluate transformation in the representational sphere. Consume, he argues, is communication, and hence not about a product's functional value, but the image provided or it identified with the product. To emphasize the process of how individuals disassemble, transform, and give new meaning to their experience or consume, he suggests the terms encoding, decoding, and re-encoding. He is particularly interested in the dynamic of signification interpretation, stressing how it results in a reflexive accumulation where people orient themselves towards simulations, creating an image culture. Their endless re-encodings creates the illusion of a direct experience. Hence, the re-encodings are anti-aesthetic in the sense that they are make-believe or second natures. They do not refer to an original concrete experience, but are fragments transformed into new meaning. Jensen points to how classical aesthetic distinctions such as taste, lifestyle, and consume must be abandoned in order to capture the new genealogies and topologies characterizing the polyrhythmic aspects of contemporary image culture. Both Jensen and Böhme focus on the production of mediated consumption or atmospheres and its connection to the good life, our valuation of atmospheres. They address how the interrelation between the generation of experience qualities and their economic value is problematic, in the sense that this relation affects us in specific ways, consumption. Jensen and Böhme, however, also address how individuals play a crucial part in the production of atmospheres, as actively involved in the encoding, decoding, and re-encoding of experiences.